Now, Daniel Levy is president of the US Middle East Project and a former senior advisor to the Israeli government. He joins us now. Daniel, thanks for your time. Let's start with this. The US last night vetoing a UN Security Council resolution calling for a ceasefire and immediate aid for Gaza. What signal does this move by the US send Israel?
Please continue to do your worst. You have our backing. You have our cover. We are still going to be the enablers of this genocide, as we, the US, have been for the entirety of this period, ever since the Israelis announced that their response to the events of October 7th would be the collective punishment of the Palestinian civilian population in Gaza, the cutting of food, fuel, water, electricity. Ever since the International Court of Justice first issued its urgent provisional measures in January of 2024, 18 months ago. So what you had here, Sally, was a very modest resolution. It said the things you mentioned. It said let in the humanitarian aid, get a ceasefire. It said release all the Israelis being held in Gaza. So it said those things. It was then supported by 14 of 15 members of the UN Security Council. It was put forward by the 10 non-permanent members, and it was vetoed by the United States. This is, depending on how you count it, the fifth or sixth veto the US has imposed on a Gaza-based resolution during this time. It is one of decades of vetoes the US has imposed. So this brings that whole structure into question. But, Sally, perhaps even more important than what the UN is doing at the Security Council is that, what the US is doing at the Security Council is that the US continues to provide the arms without which this could not continue, providing those to Israel. It's the continuation of the Biden policy by the Trump administration.
Such an important point you make. Many of Israel's former allies are now signaling their absolute horror of what's going on in Gaza. What more can and should those countries be doing? I mean, is it time for them to consider sanctions, political isolation?
It's well past that time. The gap, Sally, between the language that we are hearing from Europeans and others, the way they are describing what is being done in Gaza compared to the policies that they undertake, could not be wider. It is a chasm. So you have, for instance, the UK using the language it has used. Then it sends one of its trade officials out to strengthen the trade ties. It continues to allow arms exports, the same with other European states. Germany today confirmed it would continue arms exports. That is in violation of the rulings of the international court system to which they claim to adhere. They claim to adhere to international legality, and they are complicit enablers of all those images, the horrors, the genocide that we are seeing in Gaza. So the words are meaningless, and they will be judged by history for that gap between what they say, what we see, and how they are allowing this to continue. It's not just about the US, although the US is, of course, in prime position.
Daniel, I've got to ask, you're a former negotiator. You are used to seeing both sides trying to find the middle ground. Where would you start in trying to get talks started again? Or are the positions so polarized it's virtually impossible?
You know, there is no middle ground when one side, and let's not both sides this, Sally. There is a nuclear-armed occupying power. This is asymmetry taken to an extreme. And you have that same power that occupies Palestinian territories, that prevents anything from going in. You have that power openly telling us that they intend to ethnically cleanse the territory. They intend to kettle the Palestinians into an area of 20% of Gaza, and they continue to demonstrate that they will prevent the most basic of necessities, including food and water, from getting into those people. So that's not an opening position for a bargain. What one needs is the demonstrable shift in the incentive structure, that there will be costs incurred for this behavior. And then Israel will have to come back and say, okay, How do we change this? There is pressure from inside Israel. Many of the families of those still being held do not believe for one moment that Netanyahu is prioritizing them. Some of Israeli society is exhausted. It doesn't have an endless supply of reserves, but it still has the ability to be treated as a normal actor by far too much of the international community, and therefore to do what it is doing.
Important point you're making. Thank you so much. That's Daniel Levy, President of the US Middle East Project, also a former senior advisor to the Israeli government.